The Board of Clackamas County Commissioners will reconvene on our policy session on this August 7, 2024. Administrator Gary Schmidt, what's up?
Thank you, Chair Smith. We are going to continue the policy session from this morning on board rules. This is a continuation to finish where we left off, and Jane Beto, County Counsel, is the staff presenter. Go ahead, please, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Okay, so when we left off before lunch, we had just finished looking at Section 11 of both Exhibit A and B, and I think there was a consensus that we would go with the language that is as currently written in Section A, 11A, and I think the debate was over any commissioner may express their position or basis taken by a quorum of the commission, but should not actively attempt to undermine a decision of the board. My understanding was there was consensus to stay with that language. Any concerns about that before we move forward?
I think, Commissioners, are we fine on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So then the next difference, the next change that we're going to be looking at is on Section 11C. So it's going to be on page 6 of Exhibit 1. And then also on page 6 of Exhibit 1, the change is Exhibit 1, it's Exhibit 2. Exhibit 1, 11C reads, "The chair may provide testimony or sign a letter on behalf of the board without prior board approval if the testimony or letter repeats an already adopted position or if it is a merely ministerial function of the board." Section C has that sentence but adds, "The chair may delegate signing authority to the vice chair."
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So do we have a consensus of adding that
In fact,
additional
we've done that
sentence?
already.
Right. As we discussed, that seems like it's practice.
Okay.
Okay. And then the big difference coming up here is both the documents, Section 12, are different. On Exhibit 1, Section 12 is miscellaneous. This provision on Exhibit 1 matches up with Section 13 of Exhibit 2.
Got it.
And in Exhibit 2, they added a new Section 12 that's called Board Actions and Complaints. And so this addresses how the board kind of reprimands and admonishes or censures its members. And then what is the review or reconsideration process? And then it also talks about, in Section B, it talks about what happens, what's the process if a workplace-related complaint is filed against a commissioner.
Just a minute, and it's 13 on this other one.
So it's Section 12 on Exhibit 2. It does not exist in Exhibit 1.
Oh, I
You will
see,
not read
okay.
it.
Let's take time to read that over, Commissioners. So it says to take adverse action, but it doesn't define what the parameters of that action may be.
It's broad. It says it may include, but is not limited to, and then it goes on to say reprimand, admonishment, censure, removal.
But it doesn't say why. It doesn't say what the behavior was, Jane.
Right.
And so that's up to interpretation. Gee, I don't like what one of my commissioners did, I don't know, at whatever time, and therefore it goes against my sensibilities. I'm sensitive to it. You should have never, ever done that. Well, I don't think that is enough to initiate a censor or any type of this action. We've been through a lot. This particular Board of Commissioners has been through a lot. I'd like to think that we've learned from our actions that we've taken in the past on this. Commissioner West?
Okay. This all predates me. So 12 is new, right? So 12 is, this language is new. And then, okay, just want to make sure, that's how I thought I saw this. And so the board is a self-governing and may take any adverse action against any commissioner. Such action may include not to be limited to the public reprimand and the admonishment and the censure, removal, or assignment or reassignment of liaison duties, so removal from your liaison duties or reassignment? Is that how that's reading? Mm-hmm. Okay, and other actions as deemed warranted by the board. So if any adverse action is formally taken, you got to revisit it to see if we need to still keep that in place, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so is it already in our code that it is our responsibility as a self-governing board to take these actions against another commissioner if it's necessary?
It is not.
It is not.
However, there is an HR policy that applies to all county employees and elected officials that prohibits discrimination and harassment-free workplace and complaints. So that's a fairly broad area.
Is that number B here?
It is procedure number 2, and that is what I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
You don't have it in front of you, I just pulled it up on my phone.
I guess we have it is broad. I also am fine with there being a reconsideration. Somebody shouldn't live with like a scarlet letter. Things get politically heated. We're in there's political things that pop up, and, you know, there's reactions that happen. This board has censored other commissioners before. That was not my decision. I was not on this board, so I'm not going to speak to that. I was not privy to hear. I did make a formal statement as like Wilsonville City Councilor, and many other electeds chimed in. I made that statement that I thought was appropriate at that time. That's on the record and in the media. But I don't think that we should be putting scarlet letters forever on commissioners that stick with them and prohibit them from actually doing the good work that they're elected to do. Ultimately, that ultimate decision is up to the voter on whether or not they want to still be served by that commissioner. We can have a statement as a board, but really I think we should be trying to look to the voters to choose who represents them. And they don't have to be our favorite person. This isn't best friends race, but the voters choose. So I like this, actually. I'm okay with it. I think it's to be able to, if you make it that big of a formal issue, maybe look at it again. If it's a performance issue, I don't know exactly how everybody else feels about it. Or are we just kind of like clawing at scabs that maybe have already kind of healed over and we're moving forward? I don't know. I'm open, but that's kind of how I think about it.
Well, to your point, Commissioner West, this is very open-ended. You know, any opinion, any statement, any action, this board can sit in judgment of another commissioner, and I think that's dangerous. I do.
So you don't think that we should have the right to censor our colleagues?
I'm not saying censor, but what action, since we're talking about this, can you define for me?
Well, what if I'm like, I leave today, I have too much to drink at lunch, I get in a Dewey here in Oregon State? That's never going to happen. This is all hypothetical. That behavior reflects on this board as an elected. You guys would have the right to, I think, maybe reprimand me publicly for that type of public action.
Jane,
I don't know.
Jane, is that true?
If you adopted Exhibit 212A, yeah, I think that type of situation would be included because it's very broad. It could be something that someone says up here in the dais. It could be something that someone says in your office. It could be something that you do on your off time. I do think subsection B is much more limited. It talks about discriminatory behavior, workplace behavior, harassing workplace behavior. I do think this is already covered. Subsection B is already covered under the county employment policy, which you are a part of, which you are subject to. I think B is redundant, but A is new.
And I want to really quick on my comments here. I think we should be very careful and judicious if someone is operating within the free speech realm as electeds. We have very, very, very broad, we may not like it and it may not be comfortable, but free speech is there to protect uncomfortable speech. And then we can have a debate and a dialogue about it. But we must be very careful to ever censure for someone's action around free speech. I don't have to agree with it, but I'll defend their right to say whatever they need to say to the death. And so I don't want to see this effort used to censor somebody because they're operating within their First Amendment rights. I think sometimes we get very polarized and uncomfortable, and then we want to say that's so unbecoming, we have to censor that. We should be very careful. That is a slippery slope and one that is really, I think, antithetical to the First Amendment.
I do agree on free speech. I also think this should be work-related. Now, to use your example, I know it's not going to happen.
You can use me.
Okay, 7 o'clock at night, Commissioner West is out partying with his friends, he gets picked up for a Dewey. That's not work-related. I don't think that we have the purview to go into a person's private lives and nitpick at what they're doing. The law takes over at that point. It's not necessary for the commission to reprimand. We might make a statement individually, gee, that's wrong, duh, that's wrong. But in the final analysis, we've been through this, it's up to the individual and it's up to the people who elect them. The people who are independent elected, we have the right to basically say most everything we want, although I think most of us don't say everything we want or everything we think. So I'm very hesitant about adopting A being so broad-based. Then I'm also hesitant to define what we would censor. Gary, you have any ideas?
I think you should strike this and let whatever board, you get to decide as a board in the future. If you want to take an action, you don't have to have it codified in a policy, is my advice.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, because there's a couple people here don't know the circumstances. I would have been very vocal, more vocal than I was in January of 2021, when it was Commissioner Scholl that was subject to this. I had injured my back really bad in December, and we had COVID. We were communicating by, Zoom meetings. I was medicated because of that, and I didn't get my operation, or my procedure, it wasn't an operation, it was a procedure, until after that whole thing. I felt, again, partially really not being 100% physically and mentally involved in this. I thought that what happened at that time went too fast. I thought it didn't really give ample time to, really fully investigate and validate everything. And it seemed to me that Paul, that it was a race to do something and there was no rules to guide us. And so while I don't ever want to see that, or hopefully that ever happens again, I do think that there has to be something and rules to remind everyone that something can happen. You're a new commissioner, let's say, and you can be given, here's the rules, by the way. I would appreciate that, knowing what the rules are. But I think what this does add that gives me a little bit more comfort is the last sentence about any adverse action will be undertaken, will be reconsidered after 180 days. So to me, that would be another thing that would, again, as to Commissioner West's earlier comments, that would take it away. But what I didn't like is that we made the rules up as we go, and that's been part of my issue from the beginning. We shouldn't be doing it that way. If it's either a rule or it's not a rule, and we shouldn't make them up to do it. So I don't want to open the wound, but I'll just say that it went too fast. And
Okay,
if I was here and had my physical and mental 100% capacity, I would have barked really loud about that.
Can I add on to that? I was a brand-new chair, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, don't even remember. And I was pressured by every legal entity in this county, practically, pressured by every elected official, not only from this county, but the adjoining counties, which, by the way, it's none of their business, and I told them so. Okay, and the problem is, I think that we need to be very careful on this. Okay, we've lost a commissioner. So we're not going to finish the board rules without all 5 being here. I don't see how we can continue on this, because obviously this is a very sensitive matter and we need unanimous support on it. And I was really trying not to bring up the situation that just walked out of the room. I was trying to be very adept in my language, so I don't know what to do now.
May I make a proposal? We have come so far today. We got through section 11. And when I look at section 13 and I look at section 14, there was consensus prior to that. Would the board consider adopting the rules and then coming back to talk about board actions and complaints in a separate session?
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
Can I say one thing before we do? Just so we're knowledgeable.
Paul?
And that is that the Exhibit 2 is something that Commissioner Scholl and I did work together on. So I'm presuming, I was going to ask him, I'm presuming he's okay with this language. I'm not saying we should act without him. I'm not suggesting that. All I'm saying is that
Should we remove his censure today?
We did.
we did.
Has that already been done?
Well, yes.
But I think it could have been, frankly, more formal.
Okay.
I thought it was formal. And by the way, I wanted to remove his censure many months before this board was willing to remove his censure. I'm going to go on record for saying that. We are recessing for 10 minutes right now. Thank you. We have returned from a brief recess. We need to finish the one item at hand, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner West. He wants to make a particular motion. I think that we should strike Section 12 of the Exhibit 2 totally. Jane?
Yeah, I think because we are actually going through Exhibit 1, I think the direction would be to not include new Section 12, board actions and complaints, into Exhibit 1.
Commissioner Schrader?
So let me make a motion here, because I think what we're doing is trying to go with,
Your mic. Martha, your mic.
Exhibit 1, am I correct?
Yes.
And that is the one we will adopt, and we will not be adopting one with 12 in it.
We will,
Those two sections of 12, A, B. Help me with a motion, Jane,
Right.
that will get us there.
thank you. I think the motion would be to adopt Exhibit 1 with the edits discussed today,
Okay.
and without the inclusion of Exhibit 2, Section 12 into Exhibit 1.
Is that your motion, Commissioner Schrader?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved. We adopt version of Exhibit 1 with the agreed-upon edits and exclude Section 12, A and B of Exhibit 2. And Commissioner West has seconded that motion. Further discussion.
So what do we need to do with 13 and 14?
We've adopted those.
I don't think we talked specifically about them. They didn't have any changes, but the motion was to adopt Exhibit 1, which does include 13 and 14. I'm sorry, because it's renumbered, 12 and 13, miscellaneous and adoption.
So
Haven't changed.
So Jane, help me out. What does this, where does it say then under version 1 clearly and crystal clearly that we're following Robert's Rules of Order?
So in version 1, that is Section 12A. If any procedure or situation not covered by law or this process, procedure, and protocol, then the board may resort to the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised for persuasive but non-binding direction.
But the motion was to strike 12.
No,
I'm sorry, the motion was to not include Exhibit 2, new paragraph 12. That language.
it's a different one.
We're striking.
So you have two versions in.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
I'm trying to catch up. You're going too fast for me because I thought, well, that's covered under 13 and 14 in the version 2. So on section 12, what I wanted to talk about in version 1 was having them attached or an attachment A, so they're referenced, so they're part of the rules.
What is? What's attached?
Robert's
The
Rules.
version of Robert's Rules of Order we're going to follow.
In section 12 of
Version
Exhibit
1. And we should say, but you see attachment A,
Okay.
whatever, something like that, so that it's clear. We can't argue about what version we're going to follow. It's clear that they're part of the board rules, the adopted board rules.
Do we have consensus on
And
that?
then who makes the determination? Let's take it a step further. Oftentimes, we've deferred to Gary, as if there's a disagreement that this wasn't followed. I think we need to add that in there, too, that the county administrator then we'll make a determination.
Well, it should be who's the assigned parliamentarian.
Oh, you can just use that phrase, assigned parliamentarian for
And
clarification.
we have the administrator as the assigned parliamentarian. Gary?
So first, Robert's Rules is a 500-page book. It's not a one-page document. Even the cheat sheet version is 50 pages. So I would recommend instead you just refer to the whatever version we're on, Robert's Rules of Orders, newly revised version, whatever it is. And then you know what version, the actual book that you're guided by is my recommendation on that.
So this is, so Chair, just so as a reminder, you may or may not recall, but that's where the issue was with Sturgis, how Sturgis came to the conversation, because the state of Oregon had adopted or recommended in their public meetings manual that Sturgis be followed because of its simplicity. And that's how Sturgis came into the conversation. And basically, the structure of Sturgis is pretty well identical in a lot, but of Robert's Rules of Order, but it's not that onerous, several hundred pages version.
Well, as I've said before, I do not think it's wise to change horses in midstream. And the legislature, by the way, Commissioner Savas, adopts their own rules. And they spend the first 2 weeks of every session, the House and the Senate, writing their own rules. And then if those particular rules are silent, then they refer to Robert's Rules. Now, this committee that has denied Clackamas County deflection, they used Robert's Rules of Order because they couldn't bring back Clackamas County for consideration because the maker of the motion was absent. So today, the maker of the motion came back, a Lane County judge, and says, yes, I was the maker of the motion, I'm offering for reconsideration. So that's why. So even that body is using Robert's Rules of Order. And I suggest we just stay with that and go forward with it. And I'm not going to say, I'm the first to admit, I'm not going to memorize all 500 rules. I've just offered it as a basic framework for the majority of the general motions that come here. Gary, you have provided us with those documents. I think that's really all we need at the type of business that we do here at the dais. And maybe you want to send those out.
Sure, yes.
So we have a motion on the table. Further discussion.
I just going to reiterate, I'm on the fence right now because I don't, we've had disagreements of what Robert's Rules are. And absent a copy of them or an assigned parliamentarian to interpret what they are, I am not comfortable adopting rules without rules. That's essentially what we're doing.
I think you're being to the extreme, and I think you're being extremely difficult. We basically, I think, have consensus of every single board member here today. We have come this far, and you're taking one minor aspect of this, and you're willing to subvert the entire process. We have come as far as we're going to come on this, commissioners. We have done yeoman's work. Everybody has given up something on this. And
So have I.
I said everybody. I said, you're not listening, Commissioner Savas.
No, you
I
singled
said
me,
everybody-
Chair, you singled me out.
I said everybody has given up something on this for adoption. And if we don't adopt it this today, I don't see us doing it in the future.
We've come this far. Is there any ideas from either legal counsel or the administrator on how we resolve this
There are
one tiny
two
thing?
commissioners on the, go ahead, Commissioner
Okay,
Schrader.
so, Commissioner Shaw? No, Commissioner Schrader. Okay. So here's what I'm going to suggest. You know, as a librarian, you don't have to have the addendum with a whole book there. You can just have, you can cite. You can put them down in here. If someone wants to amend the motion to have 2 citations referring to Robert's Rules of Order, and then it's up to you whether you read 500 pages or 300 pages. And you could put 2 citations there, just so you know that that's what we're using. I think the issue is to me, that would solve the issue, right? Just have a little addendum with the citations in the year.
Okay.
And then that way, you'll get what you need because it'll refer to the documentation. But I think, isn't the issue just having everything kind of, Xeroxed and like put on here would give us a packet that was like, 12 feet tall or something? Would that be okay? Would that be a good, can't we do that?
You mean footnote it?
Yeah, footnotes. Bada bing,
I don't
bada
know.
boom.
Jane, can we footnote it?
Footnote
You
it.
could footnote it, or
Yeah.
you could put, because if this document lives past all of us, it does right now say the most recent edition of Robert's Rules. If you
Okay.
want to tie that down now and say Robert's Rules is at edition 11, and, update this as it goes forward, probably the easier thing to do would to be have it in an exhibit
Right.
and update the
That's
exhibit.
what I think you're getting at, right? At least we would have some documentation as we go through these discussions. That's what we're referring to with the footnote.
And so who would adopt the new exhibits as they are renewed?
I think my office can take responsibility for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner West?
A couple things. Every board I've ever served on that uses Robert's rules does have to try to have an identified parliamentarian. It's helpful. I assume it's Gary, and I'm always like, Gary, are we doing this addendum correctly? So I think that is helpful to be able to know who we're talking to, whether it's you or it's Gary or whoever, right? So I don't think that's reasonable. It's not a big deal. And can we have an electronic version of the most recent Robert's rules downloaded on our laptops?
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, who wants to be the parliamentarian? Jane, county council, or county administrator?
So the only concern I have about calling it out one or the other is, right now, Gary's an expert, but, when Gary retires, will the next county administrator be the proper position? So it could say the board will identify the
Okay.
parliamentarian.
Well, I think my initial language was the assigned parliamentarian, and that opens the
Okay,
door
well,
to whoever we
that's-
assign it to.
That's fine.
That's good. That works. Do we need an amendment to the motion then?
Do you need a friendly amendment? Who made the motion?
Martha made the amendment.
Martha, will you
made
take
the
my
motion.
friendly amendment to the assigned parliamentarian to your motion?
Yes, of course I will.
Okay, okay, commissioners. Is the motion clear?
Clackamas County clear.
Yeah.
Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Jane, is it clear to you?
Yes.
It's clear to me, too, yes.
Okay, great.
We
All
will
right.
take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl. Aye. Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Before we enter the next policy session, I've been notified that these meetings are noticed until 3:30. So any continuation past 3:30, we would be in violation of public meetings notice. Also, I have an appointment at 4 o'clock scheduled, knowing that we would finish at 3:30. We are not going to finish at 3:30 today. However, I am willing to discuss the items. I tried to switch up the items this morning to allow for this. However, I was challenged by Commissioner Savas, we can't do that. So I suggest that we continue with the order of the business as stated on the agenda, knowing that we're not going to get to everything today. Commissioner West?
Chair, I do have a motion I'd like to make, if I can do
I
that now.
forgot about that. Go ahead.
I'm very proud to make this motion. I think it's overdue publicly. Chair, I move that we remove all reprimands, admonishments, or censures on Commissioner Scholl during his term today officially.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner West has removed all censor admonishments of Commissioner Scholl made by a previous board. Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Commissioner West?
Just for the public record, I want it to be very clear that I find Commissioner Scholl to be a very hardworking, honorable man. He works diligently for the members, all members of this community, regardless of their political persuasions. I find him to be a good colleague with that has been upstanding in his efforts, and I want to recognize his integrity. I have never had any overt maltreatment from him ever. My family never has. He's always been completely respectful and kind to us. And it is an honor of mine to be able to make this motion today. And I stand against any of the previous accusations ever made against him in his role as a commissioner that caused him to be censured or to be kind of, I think, a part of a public council culture. And I wanted to make sure that we tried to right the ship. He has done a fantastic job, and we appreciate the work that you do, Commissioner Scholl.
May I say something, Commissioner Scholl, first? This action is something that I've been trying to do ever since that censor came in, and I did not have board concurrence on it. Now we do, and I want to thank you for bringing that motion forward. I have found Commissioner Scholl to be one of the most reliable, honest, and hardworking commissioners that I have ever worked with, and I so appreciate that very much. As chair, I'm not always in the office right at the time that he's in the office in the morning because I have other appointments, but I can always count on where I'm going to be. If I call him on the phone, I know he's going to call me back. And for me as chair, that reliability is probably one of the most important attributes I think that any of us can have. Commissioner Savas, your light is on? No? Commissioner Scholl, you were up.
Yes. I want to thank Commissioner West for the motion. I'd like to thank him for his wisdom and his sensitivity to justice. Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
I also want to echo that I have found Commissioner Scholl to be a man of integrity, and I've always appreciated his military service to this country. Even though we haven't agreed on everything, that's fine. That's just the way things are when you have this job. And as someone who has been censured in the past herself, yeah, I know how difficult it can be. So very appreciative of your work, Commissioner, and your Commissioner Scholl, and your dedication to your country.
Commissioner Savas.
Yep. Yeah, I've had, like as I mentioned earlier on this topic, I had heartburn about the way it came about and the way it was done. And I've personally apologized to Commissioner Scholl twice, and the last time recently in his office as well, earlier this year. And I'm glad, I appreciate Commissioner West making the motion today. Commissioner Scholl is indeed a very professional individual. He's actually very calm, and he's courteous. And his professionalism and the work that he does and the way he goes about himself is very emblematic of most people in the military. So I appreciate, number one, your service here for the public on behalf of the citizens of Clackamas County, and also your service abroad defending our country.
Thank you.
Further comments, discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Now, may I discuss the rest of the schedule for today? Now, according to the schedule, which I had opposition to change the schedule, knowing that we were going to run out of time on this, because there's no way that we can finish 1, 2, 3, 4 policy sessions in the next hour and 15 minutes, and I'm not sure all commissioners are even going to be here for that. I will be leaving at 3:30 for an appointment that's been on the books at 4 o'clock for a very long time. I don't know if any other commissioner is going to be here or not. Commissioner West? He has a doctor's appointment, and I do believe our health is of utmost importance to all of us. So up next was RVs, since there's probably opposition to take any of these out of order. And if we want to do that, RVs is temporary dwellings, and then next is enhanced law enforcement district, and the Cybacillin, oh no, we've already done Cybacillin, and then it would be libraries. So Gary, Jane, would you like to offer some advice?
None of these are urgent, so all 3 of these sessions, any one of them can be postponed or rescheduled. The RVs is at the request of 2 commissioners. 2 of you asked for this session. The Enhanced Law Enforcement District is not urgent. This was one of the recommendations of the Moss Adams performance audit. And the library discussion, you started that yesterday, and this was part 2.
Yes.
To add to what Administrator Schmidt said, of the 3, I think the libraries the board is closest on. There was some language that I I did not hear any concerns around the proposal, but I did hear we would like some additional information about changes we could make in the future. So one of the options for the board today would be to adopt the proposal that was raised yesterday, and then maybe, I think what I heard was like some kind of work group to address these discrete library issues.
So I
just a
gather
moment.
you're talking about libraries.
Point of order, Jane. Point of order. What topic are we going to discuss? Are we going to discuss these out of the schedule order, is what I want to know. Because if we do, that sets precedence that we can change the order, the chair can change the order as necessary to accommodate time.
I believe that is the current practice.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. So, commissioners, are we discussing libraries?
Sure, that's what we want to do. I'm ready to have a discussion. Chair?
I'm trying to, just a moment, I'm trying to pull up my computer, just a minute. Policy session. On that. County Council has been working on an IGA, I don't know, it seems like for as long as I've been here.
Excuse me, Chair, so if this is the session, would you please convene as the Library District Board of
I will
Clackamas
recess as the
County?
Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Library District Board.
Thank you. You're now discussing Clackamas County Library District Funding, Part 2, continuation of your discussion yesterday. No staff needs to come forward. Jane and I will cover this, so go ahead, please, Commissioners.
And yesterday, we couldn't have an agreement, I think, on a very basic tenet of governance. And that is allowing or giving legal permission to the cities to use district funds for some maintenance. Now, since our session yesterday, I've heard from mayors expressing, holy cow, please pass that. I understand your frustration, please pass that. I don't see how we get anything else accomplished with libraries if we can't even allow our cities who manage our libraries to manage them in the way that we said that they could. Remember, prior board said that we haven't changed how cities manage their libraries, but we do need to give them a legal avenue to do that. And so my opinion is, unless we adopt the very basic IGA, I don't know how we can have any further discussions on libraries, because it's going to get convoluted. It's going to be a political football from the people who showed up yesterday on one side and the people who showed up on the other side. It's just going to be a mess. We are elected leaders. We get to make the leadership decisions, and approving that IGA is an important leadership decision as we discuss the future implementation or whatever of our libraries going forward. I really think we should do that, Commissioners. Commissioner Savas, you're out.
Yeah, I'm going to hand out the letter that was sent to us on June 27th, 2023, so you all have a copy of it. I want you to, if you want to focus on anything, please focus at least on the last paragraph on the back page. Now, my issue here today, I do not want to get into another legal battle. I don't want to get into another issue with challenges or what the will of the voters was or subverting the will of the voters. And that monkey will be on our back. It will not be on the mayors. It will not be on the city managers. It will not be on the library boards or LDAC members. That will be on our back. And the trust that will be lost as a result of that, I'm not willing to really withstand or support. So I don't have a challenge, and I said this yesterday, I don't have an issue or a challenge with any of the changes that Mr. Munns has provided. In fact, when I talked to Mr. Munns about this, and the first time he proposed this to the LDAC members, I said, so really, essentially, what you're saying is your interpretation of the current law is that they can continue to do what they're doing. And his answer was yes. So so it's essentially, if I read this, the urgency, there's no urgency to do this. because of the pushback from a number of the members, which I heard a lot of since yesterday, by the way. I didn't hear from any mayors, though I did try to call 2 of them. But I will say that there is a huge concern that, and if you read the comments, and actually if you also read the packet, you'll hear staff's outline for today's packet, outline of some of the comments made by LDAC regarding this change. Again, I think that we can say today that we support the changes, and they can continue to do what they need to do to run their libraries, right? But to put the IGA out there and change it will change the intent and expose us. I really believe a global solution is the solution in which we'll bring everyone to the table, some table. And my proposal is to, and I'm going to make a motion. I move that we direct staff to assemble a work group to identify all the problems and challenges of the library groups, members, city councils, whatnot, and suggest a structure or a format to move forward. And we also send a communication to the cities saying that our interpretation of the IGA is that you can spend the resources as the IGA, the amended IGA suggests. But we will postpone the actual approval of the IGA until we fix all of the issues with the IGA. That's my motion.
Your motion is very long, Commissioner
is.
Savas.
It is.
And it cannot even be repeated. I'm going to make a comment on it. Is there a second on that motion?
I would like to second the motion.
Okay. So when you bring a letter forth by one particular group, to me, you're giving power to one particular group over the whole. Now, the LDAC is an advisory only. For us to say that the LDAC, and this has been an issue for years, that more power is given to the LDAC than over the people who run the libraries, who are our librarians, and our cities who pay for the libraries, who give space, I think is inappropriate. We can engage them, like part of the motion said, but I do think that we need to pass the IGA. Is that not a legal document, Jane?
Yes.
For us to say, oh, it's okay for you to go out and do whatever you need to do, I think that's flimsy. I think that's not professional. Is there any objection to that, Jane?
No, it sounds like you are suggesting an amendment to the motion.
No. Well, I would I would amend the motion that we approve the IGA that we considered yesterday, and then I would make a second motion to encompass some of the features that Commissioner Savas is talking about.
Point of order, there's a motion on the floor.
But I amended it.
You can't amend it on your own. It hasn't been seconded or accepted.
He seconded it,
He seconded my motion.
yes.
Yeah, but you
I'm
can't amend
making-
it singularly.
I can amend the motion, correct?
You can. You
Yes.
can make a motion to amend with your language,
Yes.
please.
But you didn't make a motion to amend.
I'm doing that. Paul, yes, I said I'm amending the motion.
I heard amended.
Paul, can you be a little bit more cooperative with your colleagues today, please? I'm asking out of the kindness of my heart. To be a
Chair,
little bit
you
more
have
cooperative.
singled me out all day yesterday and all day today.
Because there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I know, your subjective reasoning, I get that, Chair.
So I am going to amend the motion that we adopt the IGA today, that we considered yesterday, and then that we consider in a separate motion all the other things that Paul mentioned. They're important. They're important, but I do think we need to take legal action on the IGA. Why else did County Council spend how many years drafting it? A very long time.
So is there a second to the
Is there a
chair's motion?
second to my amendment?
I'm going to second it. I think it's the right way to go, you know.
Thank you. There is an amendment to the motion that has been seconded. Gary, what's the procedure?
All right, so now you discuss the amendment, and then you're going to vote on the amendment. And then
Okay.
depending if it passes or
Commissioner
fails.
Savas, you have your light on.
I do. So, Chair, Mr. Munns has been working on that for less than a year, because it was only tasked just about a year ago, or less than a year ago, earlier this year, I believe. So it hasn't been years, I can tell you that. This issue has been going on a long time because of the legality, and we have advised by previous council the significance of that challenge, including from Mr. Madcore and former council Chris Story. So I've had a lot of guidance on that. We've had a lot of guidance on that. The LDAC is, while I heard what you said with regards to the city managers or having too much power or whatnot, I will point out that in the IGA, not in the IGA, in 3-310, the voters granted that power to LDAC. It's
As
in
an
the
advisory. As advisory.
As advisory.
Yes.
Everyone's advisory.
Advisory.
That's right, everyone's advisory. They did not grant advisory to anyone else. And I think it's the lack of understanding of what the measure says and the constitutionality of that, or call it constitutionality.
We have lost one of our commissioners for a predetermined appointment. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Okay, in the way of discussion on the amendment to the motion, first of all, I appreciate the work that the staff has put into this recommendation today for revising the IGA, but there are so many questions that are unanswered regarding the IGA and the situation, the financial situation of our libraries in general, that I would personally prefer to see any approval of a revised IGA to be delayed until such time those unclarified questions can be answered, so that I, for one, have a much more comprehensive understanding of exactly where we are with libraries in Clackamas County before we just make a piecemeal change to the IGA. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. I don't believe this is a piecemeal change to the IGA. I think that council has brought it back to executive session many times for us to review and go forward on. I think it's been a negotiated item, not only with the Board of County Commissioners, but elsewhere. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, this one puts me in a really interesting position as a librarian, because I support libraries across this county. But here's my concern. If we don't do this now, I think we're going to continue to just go down the same pathway of no resolutions to things. That's what worries me. And for me, the end game's always going to be, okay, a library's built and libraries providing service throughout this county. I have felt for a long time this has been more of a war with boundaries. And I think we have to start looking at this as a district without boundaries, and the cities are involved, and the unincorporated areas are involved. And if we keep the infighting going, we're not going to get any resolution to this. And for goodness sakes, I've been working on this since 2003. And it breaks my heart to see the work that we did in 2008 kind of unraveling right now in a way that I don't think is going to be productive. I do think we have to have a group to assess these other questions that have come up. I think that has to be a work group. But I believe that moving forward with this doesn't mean that I love my cities or our cities, they're not my cities, any more than I love our incorporated areas. I want to move it forward so everybody gets the services they need, whether it's in unincorporated Clackamas County, where we're going to be building a brand-new library, or within the umbrella of a city. I don't care. The kids that go to the libraries don't care. The families don't care. It's a library, and there should be areas open to everybody. And I just think if we keep picking at this, we're not going to come to any resolution to have this be a holistic, cohesive district and friendship between people, whether you're in an unincorporated area or not. I mean, that's kind of how I'm seeing it right now. And I'm saying this because I know there are people that are going to be upset out there, but I'm not doing this to penalize anybody or be anti-library. We have to move this discussion forward, and we have to have cities involved to convene on this work group as well with our unincorporated area. So I really feel terrible disappointing people, but I do think this is the right way to go right now. There just has to be some resolution to this. Stop thinking about who lives where. Just think about it as a system where any child in this entire county can cross a boundary and get a library book. It's not that hard. That's the outcome we want. And we keep getting caught into the details of this, of the original one. I'm not sure the interpretation is that the cities is the real issue that's giving the cities more, let's ask this question. Is it because we're giving the cities more power somehow? Is that what this is about? What's the technical thing that's going on here that we're trying to fix? What is the technical problem we're trying to fix with this? That they just feel that they feel safe, that they are doing things in an appropriate way.
So
while
one of
serving
the mayors wrote
the
me.
public. Right.
This is
Okay.
what one of the mayors said, and this is reflective of what probably most of the mayors have told me in my monthly mayors and chairs meeting. And I'm not going to say who this was, but I think it was a well-thought-out statement. He says, "Please provide clarification from county council regarding the appropriate use of library district funds for capital expenditures related to the provision of core services." And then this mayor goes on to say, that's all we're asking to do in the original IGA. Again, if the HVAC system goes out on your library and it's January and you have to shut the library because there's no heating, and there's no way to pay for it, how do you think that gets paid for? That's what we're asking here. Every city is different. Every city is different. Not everybody shares the same opinions. We're giving the most latitude possible to go through. And he mentions that, understanding how they can fund the repair and improvement of essential facility needs like public restrooms, HVAC systems, internet access, and ADA compliance. That says it right there. I mean, this is what the mayors are thinking. This is what the mayors, and I believe most of the city administrators. So that's the answer to what you asked.
Yeah, because does that matter that it's under the auspice of a city? I mean, it doesn't matter. It means access for every person in this county. And we're building we're building a library in the unincorporated area because they need it. They have to have it. And they're going to be dealing with we're going to be dealing with the same things about how we maintain it, right? Because we're going to be the library operator in that area. So I just see this more as a turf war, and I think it gets in the way, frankly, of just providing the service to people no matter where they live. That's the end game here. Anyway, I don't know what else I can say. I'm sorry, Paul, you're a dear friend. I'm probably going to disappoint you on this, but we've got to get over this. And we've got to allow the cities and the rest of the communities to do what they need to keep the libraries whole for everybody. When I first worked on this, Lake Oswego, when I first worked on the library district, Lake Oswego was going to, what do we care what happens out in Milan? What do we care? Wait a minute, we fund our library. And I thought that was the snottiest thing I ever heard. I was upset. And I said to them, well, that may be your job. You're thinking of your city, but my job is the cities, and it's unincorporated, and it's the kids in Malala, it's the kids in Canby, it's the kids in Estacada, it's incorporated or unincorporated. And I had a woman come up, and I said, that's why we have to have it a district, and kudos to you that you fund your library because you're a well-to-do group of people and a well-to-do neighborhood, okay? Well-to-do. They got more money to to do that. But your job, too, is to support everybody else as a citizen in this county for equal access to information. And a woman came up to me afterward, and she said, "Thank you for that. I changed my vote. I'm changing my vote because you convinced me that that's what this is all about." And I think this technical fix will give the cities what they need, and it'll give everybody what they need to function as library systems. Now, I know there's a whole list of stuff that we have to address, and I'm not saying we don't do that. But I think to move forward now in good faith with everybody, this would be a prudent way to go. So I'm sorry I talked so much, but that's my viewpoint here. And I'm sorry if I've disappointed my friends out there, but sometimes this is a tough job.
Commissioner Savas.
Yep. I consider you a friend to Commissioner Schrader, so I'm not going to be upset by this, and I am calm. I really believe that the direction that led to these two work sessions, both yesterday and today, was to be educational. And we haven't spent any time talking about all of that. I've got material I haven't even presented yet. And we just circumventing the entire process. That doesn't make our constituents feel good. And I think knowledge is powerful. And I thought the ability to bring everyone and have either a session or documents or understanding what the challenges are and have us understand what those are would be of value. And so it's very hard for me to sit back here and listen and hear concerns from folks when they don't have a full understanding. And that's what we're dealing with. I haven't seen, I have great respect for all the mayors, but I haven't seen any mayors at an LDAC meeting. I haven't seen any mayors at any other library meetings that are not LDAC related. That's not a bad thing, but it just goes to show what they're, and I mentioned this before, we have the mayors, we have the city councilors, we have the library boards of each library city, we have the librarians, we have the members of LDAC. There's a lot of constituents, they're not talking to each other. Not because they don't want to, they don't have a place or a venue. So Chair, I call for the motion.
Okay.
You mean you call for the question?
Call for the question.
And by the way, this motion that was made allows for exactly that. I want to see engagement in this county for the issues that are facing the libraries, whether it's funding, whether it's equal access, whether one has more than the other. I want to see that resolved. And I've said many times, I too, like Martha, was a former librarian in an elementary school. And it's essential. It's an essential service that we offer. So with that in mind.
The question calling for is the amendment.
Yes, I know that. Thank you. I'm getting ready to say that, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, but when Robert Rules says when it's call for the question, there's no more discussion, and yet there's discussion happening.
Well, oh well, too bad. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
No.
Commissioner Savas,
No.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion 2-2, it is tied. It has failed.
The amendment.
The amendment has failed.
So now you're back to the original motion.
And would you restate the original motion?
The original motion. I move that we direct staff to assemble a work group to identify all the problems and challenges of the library groups, members, city councils, whatnot, and suggest a structure or a format to move forward. And we also send a communication to the city saying our interpretation of the IGA is that you can spend resources as the IGA is amended suggest, but we will apologies, the wording is a little muddy there. You can spend the resources as the IGA amendment suggests, but we will postpone the actual approval of the IGA until we fix all of the issues with the IGA.
Correct. Thank you, Tony.
Discussion. Sure.
So I hear reports from libraries and people who use our libraries that due to funding limitations, that some of our libraries are not, they're cutting back on hours that they're opened. So and I understand that money's got to come from somewhere to repair facilities like HVAC. But I'm have reservations about revising the IGA to allow some of those operational funds to be used for facility repair without really understanding the big picture across the county in terms of pressures on library budgets and what the potentials are for us to address those shortfalls of funding. So with that in mind, I will be supporting Commissioner Savas's motion.
Any further discussion? I'm going to abstain on the motion today because I do not believe it is legal. And I do believe that the adoption, legally adopting the IGA and moving forward with all this other stuff is the order in which this should happen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader.
Well, I'm between a rock and a hard place, but to move this along in the hopes that maybe we can, quite frankly, stop our turf wars and just care about who gets the service, I will vote aye on this. Thank you.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
I abstain, and I've already stated my reason. Motion passes 3-1-0. What's up next?
Okay, so you have 3 policy sessions left, the RVs and the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. Which order would you like to go in, Chair and Commissioners, or be done for the day?
Well, we've already passed the RVs. I don't know what else we're going to do with that. Budget law says that we need to work on 2 portions of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. Commissioners, I think we should work on what our budget people told us we needed to do. Next. Gary.
Okay.
Jane.
So the next policy session is the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Intergovernmental Agreement. You're going to be meeting as 2 governing boards for this item. This first item, we will meet as the Board of County Commissioners. I will present. Staff is seeking your approval, Commissioners, for a revised intergovernmental agreement between the Enhanced Law Enforcement District of Clackamas County and Clackamas County. You are the governing boards for both. The Enhanced Law Enforcement District is a limited purpose county service district, which was approved by the voters in November 1994. The district provides an improved level of Sheriff's Office patrol services in the unincorporated area of Clackamas County within the metro urban growth boundary. The last intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the Enhanced Law Enforcement District was over 21 years ago, November 2003. During the last 2 Budget Committee meetings, it was clear that the intergovernmental agreement is out of date and needs several enhancements. In particular, the Budget Committee in May 2024, among many motions, did make a motion that myself and the Sheriff's Office work on updating this IGA as close to July 1st, 2024 as possible. Due to other extenuating circumstances, we're here for you today, in front of you today, but we've achieved what you've asked us to do. In particular, we have clarified the IGA to address roles and responsibilities and discuss direct charges to the ELED instead of using the general fund, to outline what cost allocations are with timing, and to discuss expenditure guidelines for the ELED. So all of that is addressed in the proposed updates to the IGA. We did not include a red line version because there were so many edits. We basically started over and rewrote the IGA with County Counsel's office. The Enhanced Law Enforcement District Advisory Board reviewed these documents and had no concerns. My office worked carefully with the Finance Department and County Council and with the Sheriff's Office, and we all come to you together, hand in hand, to recommend approval of this updated IGA. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, you're now meeting as the Board of Commissioners to discuss this. You'll meet as the ELED Board immediately after this.
Is there a presentation on this, Gary?
I just did it. That was
Okay,
it.
got it. All righty. Thank you very much. Questions? Commissioner Schull, you're up.
Yes, thank you. These revisions you're proposing today, do they reflect any of the recommendations set forth in the Moss Adams audit of the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, all of them,
All of them?
related to the sheriff's office, related to the enhanced law enforcement district.
They're all
Yes,
in there?
They're all in here, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move, pardon me a minute, I just lost it.
We approve the updated IGA as submitted.
I approve option 1 to approve the updated IGA as submitted.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved, we approve the updated IGA as submitted on the ELED, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Sabas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair, will you now convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors.
All right, this is the exact same item as I just discussed. However, you are now meeting as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors for Clackamas County. Again, you are the governing body for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. This is a request to approve the updated intergovernmental agreement between the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and Clackamas County. I'm not going to repeat myself. Anyone who's watching this for the first time, watch the previous policy session that just ended on this very same topic. So I'm seeking your approval of the updated IGA between the county and the ELED.
Further questions on this? I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve option 1, approve the updated IGA as submitted.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved we approve the updated IGA submitted, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Sabas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Right.
I will recess as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Would you like to tackle the RV item today or postpone that to another time, Chair?
Personally, I'm spent. I think what we had gone through the last several hours and most of the day was emotionally wrought on all of us, and I think we need to take a break from each other.
Okay.
Commissioner Shaw?
I was just going to say, Chair Smith, that I agree that maybe it would be beneficial for us to take a little bit more time to review this RV issue with the recommendation that it become a temporary thing. We need more time to study it. Thank you.
Okay, without laying down any further additions to the RV, which doesn't really matter what we think at this point, this meeting is adjourned.